I'm Trinidadi, and let's queer up trans rights. UK charity Watchdog, don't rush to exclude trans people. The UK's Charity Commission has confirmed that charities do not need to abandon trans-inclusive policies following the UK Supreme Court's ruling on the Equality Act. In April, the court ruled that the Equality Act's definition of sex and woman refers to biology, but stressed this was not a, quote, triumph of one or more groups in our society at the expense of another, end quote. Despite this, some charities have begun excluding trans people from single-sex spaces, including youth charity Girlguiding, which barred trans girls from its groups. Charity Commission CEO David Holdsworth urged organizations to wait for legal clarity before making exclusions. He was responding to an open letter from Third Sector against transphobia signed by hundreds of charity workers. The open letter warned, quote, "We are concerned that other organizations may now feel compelled to exclude trans people, even when this runs counter to their values," end quote. Holdsworth said charities should await the final statutory guidance or seek legal advice. Legal experts say the ruling alone does not require exclusion. Barrister Oscar Davies said equality law is, quote, permissive rather than exclusionary. The Equality Act is meant to be a shield rather than a sword, end quote. It is an eye-opener for American nonprofits and businesses that are excluding the trans community and fearing facing conservatives rather than standing strong by LGBTQ persons. So this is, it's such an interesting conversation to discuss when it comes to trans rights. You know, I probably am unlike many people that sit at this table. I do believe when it comes to sports that we should keep our biological sexes separate. And I think there are many spaces in which biological sex does play a role in your experience, your lived experience. So I'm not necessarily against the ruling. I don't follow the British social world that much to know exactly what the context of it is. But I think what they're saying is, like, don't fear conservative anti-trans groups, in that just because you may not want a certain group of people or you don't feel like they align doesn't mean that you have to completely exclude them. You know, just because you may not feel that a trans woman doesn't have necessarily the same experience as a biological cisgendered woman doesn't mean that they can't coexist in some way. So it doesn't mean that you should kick them out. It means that, hey, we should have more conversations about this. And maybe there are some people that do fit that, and maybe there's some trans women who don't fit that. And so maybe there needs to be a little bit of awareness on that not every trans person is the same. Some people transitioned way later on in life. Some people transitioned way earlier in life. Some even prepubescent. So, you know, I think what they're trying to say is, like, don't put a one-size-fits-all approach. Let's think about every situation. Let's think about the humanity of everybody. And let's not call out every conservative group that says, or a person who may not even be conservative that says, you know what, maybe there are some differences we need to account for. And maybe there's some, you know, there's some nuance in it. So just think every situation is different.
Jason?
Tell me how you really feel. I echo. One of the lines was like the Equality Act was meant to be a shield rather than a sword. Like, why are we still on the defensive? Like, why we should not? That's such not a great way to live, to always be on the defensive instead of the offensive. So
conversations, like Trini says,
yeah,
you know,
just grow up.
You know, let's be very clear. Panic is not policy, and exclusion is not compliance, right? The Equality Act was never a weapon against trans people, and the UK Watchdog just shut that lie down. You know, inclusion isn't illegal. Knee-jerk erasure is, right? So nonprofits everywhere should be paying attention, especially here at home, right? Because, I mean, this is the world that we live in. Yeah. You know, I mean, we weren't even surprised when we read the story, right? We were kind of like, yeah, we can see that happening, you know? Well, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.